Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube and, of course, iHeartRadio. My guest was named to the 2024 Time Magazine inaugural list of The Closers, 18 global leaders working to close the racial wealth gap. He's a CNBC contributor, host of iHeartRadio podcast Money and Wealth, the founder and CEO of Operation Hope, Inc., the nation's largest nonprofit provider of financial literacy. Please welcome to the show the one and only John Hope Bryant. John, it's an honor and a privilege to finally meet you, my man. How's everything going?
My honor to be here. God is good. I'm perfect.
You know, you hear those things. You know, I just echoed all of those things that you've accomplished. As you sit here today, looking at all the things that you have done for the impoverished communities throughout this country, so much stuff that you've done as it pertains to financial literacy. What runs through your mind at this moment in time when you hear that about yourself?
Not enough.
Because?
Because the problem is outrunning my capacity to get my hands around it. You know, we wanted relevancy. We also needed momentum and scale. We have momentum, we have relevancy, now we need more scale. The ladder of aspiration is broken in this country. We're confused about our business plan as a nation. We don't have 10 years to figure it out. There's not enough successful college-educated white men that drive GDP for the next 20 years. That's not a racial comment, it's just math. We're not preparing the next generation of people who look more like me than your producer to engage in the economy. Everybody needs the bottom to get to the top, which is what's happened every 100 years, by the way. It just used to be Italians or Jews or whoever it was at the bottom, Polish and so on and so forth. Immigrants. The immigrants look different now, or the people at the bottom look different now, but we still need them to get to the top. We're all in this thing called America together. And everybody wants to be an American, but Americans. So it started out as a simple thing of how do you empower people to do better, give them financial literacy, give them tools to the game. I think, as you know, the financial literacy is a civil rights issue of this generation. I think if Dr. King was alive today, this is what he'd be focused on.
You call it the civil rights issue of this generation, and you say that specifically just to crystallize and illuminate it for the audience. Why do you call it that?
Because if you don't know better, you can't do better. In a blind town, a one-eyed man's king. If you hang around 9 broke people, you'll be the 10th. I mean, money is nothing but freedom. But economic freedom is probably the only one no one can take back from you. Clearly, look at it now, you can take political freedom. You can take religious freedom. You can take a woman's freedom. I mean, a lot of things that we just thought were, you know, norms are now either at the ballot box or at the judge's table or judge's bench, and somebody else is deciding that for you. But unless you screw it up, economic freedom is yours. And there's a lot can be done when you have economic freedom, but you've got to understand how the economy works. Stephen, we're the largest economy on the planet, $27 trillion. There's 8 billion people in the world. We're only 350 million. We're a bad moment. This is an amazing experiment with all our problems in America. Like capitalism and democracy are horrible systems except for every other system. And we practice bad capitalism, slavery. Now we have an opportunity to practice good capitalism involving all of God's children. An economy that's 70% consumer spending. Let's slow that down. We're the biggest economy in the world. You can't be a superpower unless you're the economic power. It's never happened in history. But 70% of the economy is driven by your producer, your makeup people, everybody going to lunch, going to dinner, going on vacation, going on plane flights. And if that happens, financial literacy, strength. If that doesn't happen, we're all done. And for people watching this or listening to this and they're thinking, well, he's talking about poor people. Hold on, slow down. You make $100,000 a year. Half of those are living from paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
Somebody just said amen.
That's right.
You're making $250,000 a year. I was just stuck with them in the tunnel coming from Manhattan. A third of those are living from paycheck to paycheck. You're living in Manhattan. You make $100,000 a year. It feels like $39,000 a year. So everybody's saying.
But is that because of your spending habits? Is it because the government's taking half your money in terms of federal and state income tax? What would be the reason why people are living off of half of that or less, in your estimation?
Money. I mean, life in the leading developed economy in the world is just expensive, and you've got too many people who have not figured out how. Look, your money makes more money on money than you just making money on your time. But people confuse making money, making a living. That's why I call it making a living, a paycheck. They confuse making money with building wealth. Okay, so let's be practical.
Okay.
Number one way to build wealth in America, home ownership. What percentage of black people who built this country for free own a home? 41 to 44, 45%. That's a problem right there. 75% of our mainstream counterparts own a home. Number one way you build wealth. What percentage of black people are in the stock market? 18, 20%. The market has been on an absolute tear. You can be dumb, blind, and stupid and still irrational, completely irrational, and still make a fortune in the stock market. My friend would not mind me saying this, my brother Stevie Wonder can see this, and he's made a fortune in the stock market and owning radio stations and owning. He can see better than most of us. He's brilliant. So we have not been taught financial literacy. It's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. And in a blind town, a one-eyed man's king. If you don't know better, you can't do better. And as an old Southern saying, no matter how much I love you, my son or my daughter, if I don't have wisdom, I can only give you my own ignorance. So out of love, we're passing down bad habits from generation to generation. And now it's not just black people or brown people. And by the way, African Americans have the lowest average credit score in America, 620, which means racism, bias aside, we can't get approved for a loan. And we think it's racism, but
it's the credit score.
It's a credit
An
score.
average of 620. Yeah. Actually, I thought the number was lower. I'm not going to lie to you. I thought the number was lower.
So you're a smart man. What happens is it's averages. So you and me are bringing the average up. We're over 800.
Speak for yourself. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend I'm higher than you. I'm approaching 7. It was above 7, but look, it dipped a little bit.
Anything with a 7 on it is sexy, brother. Right. 700 credit score neighborhoods don't riot; they go shopping, right? And so the problem is that our cousins and all our friends got a credit score of 550, 580, and the average of that, our 7s and their 5s, is 620, right? So, but whatever it is, that's not good enough to get a mortgage loan at a good interest rate. It's not good enough to get, so forget a small business loan. I don't care how smart you are, that's risky credit, that's a 700 credit score. So we assume that it's racism, and it might be, but in all likelihood, the computer, because the beautiful part about today, Steve, the computer will just say yes at midnight. There's nobody looking at you and looking at you cross-eyed. If you have a 700 credit score, you're not black, you're green. The computer will just say yes at midnight. So we don't have enough of us who who understand you got to get your credit score up, your debt ratios down, your savings up, so the computer can say yes. We know how to do that at Operation Hope. That's not financial wealth. It's knowledge wealth. That's financial literacy, so you can access good credit.
I'm going to get into Operation Hope in just a couple of minutes, but I wanted to go back to something you said earlier, just a few minutes ago, when you talked about this nation, this country is confused. Yeah. You talked about it being confused. Speak to that for a second and be specific about who you're talking about, what you're talking about, because again, you would have some people that would sit up, like yourself, you just articulated, folks are a bit confused. In my estimation, sometimes I look at it, John, and I got to tell you, I don't see confusion as much as I see a dogged, fierce commitment to getting what you want, no matter who it's at the expense of.
Well, that's
what I think. That's what I think is wrong with the country.
Well, but that's confusion. Look,
is that confusion?
That's confusion.
Okay.
Look, anybody watching this who's married, they know you got a decision to make. Do you want to be married or you want to be right?
Or you want to be right?
Yeah, those are two different decisions. If you want to be married, or do you want to be right? You can be right and be alone, or married and get along, right? So you have to figure out in this country, something that up until now we have, are we better together? And only in relationship, I love math because it doesn't have an opinion. It's a Melody Hobson quote, I like to give her credit. But the only place I don't agree with that is in a relationship. The math should not work. In a relationship, 2 + 2 has to equal 6, 8, or 10, or what are you doing?
Right.
I can do better all by myself. I don't need help. As Quincy Jones would say, the only thing worse than being alone is wishing that you were. So I don't need somebody else to drag me down. I need somebody to help lift me up. So relationships, you should be better together. So America is in a relationship with other Americans. And together we rise up and contribute and to build this light on the hill, a place for democracy and freedom, an open door for everybody who's reasonable and who can come through and follow the rules and play by the rules and all that kind of stuff, and who can help us to drive, once again, freedom and economic prosperity for all, which means you have a shot to go from the bottom of that ladder to the top. And people don't believe they can go from the bottom to the top. That's why my poor white friends are riding at the ballot box right now. People can figure out what I mean by that. Right. We left them alone in the Industrial Revolution, didn't give them a business plan for their life. They were making a nice salary on a high school education. You can't do that anymore. We're about to change again with AI, by the way, and now middle class people are going to be asking that same question of what does the future hold for me?
Because
right?
they're not going to have jobs because they're going to be replaced by AI. And obviously there's less human beings, and basically that leads to what you were talking about. If there's less human beings out there making money, then the consumers less. They're not spending as much money as they once were able to because they're not as employed, as financially stable as they once were. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. And so now you say, well, then if you don't have that, then what holds us together? It used to be religion. Okay, we took prayer out of schools and all that kind of stuff, and that was America. The world's about culture. Your block has a culture. Your house has a culture. This studio has a culture. Culture is not the most important thing in business. It's the only thing in business. What's our culture? It used to be held together with religion. That fell away. Now I think spirituality is falling away. So now it's not about we anymore, it's me. It's not about this, it's about this. It's about I'm gonna take it. Now we're moved away from relationships to transactions. That's a slippery slope on the way down. You're playing a short game and America's a long game vision. So in my opinion, we're looking for love in all the wrong places. They're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. The ship is sinking and we're picking drapes. Let's look at diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay. That's been politicized.
Now practically eradicated.
And it's dead as a three initial symbol. It's in my opinion, it's too risky for anybody to touch. But here's the problem. All DE and I is, let's just say diversity, keep it simple, is R&D for GDP. It's research and development for a future economy. Because in 1950, America was 90% white. But today, America's 40% black and brown. And in 10 years, there'll be a majority of minorities. Even the racist needs a poor black person to succeed, because when the black person succeeds, the racist does better economically. All boats rise. Now I'm kidding, but I'm serious. My rich friends need my poor friends to do better, if only to stay rich. Because what I told you before, the economy is driven by consumer spending. Who's a new consumer? It's soon a majority of minorities who have not been trained of how to earn, learn, build the economy, and grow wealth. We're not dumb and we're not stupid. It's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, but we think we know. That's why I wrote the book Financial Literacy for All, why I do the podcast Money and Wealth, why I go around the country in this American Aspiration Tour, why I'm going to suggest we replace DE&I with inclusive economics.
Inclusive economics.
Inclusive economics, which I think is sort of controversial. Okay. It's hard to get upset with it. By the way, it relates to everybody.
I would say to you, what world are you living in respectfully? Because they'll fret over the word inclusive. And I mean, in today's culture, today's political climate is so ridiculous. They'll parse a syllable to complain about. So the word inclusive alone will cause problems.
But the data will not. And here's why I love about this. I don't need for somebody to like me. It's okay if you don't like me, I like me. Right. I don't need for you to love black people and brown people. I want you to be actually what you said, selfish, self-centered, and short-term oriented. Because the data is unimpeachable. America today, this generation, first time ever, will be a majority of those over 65 for the first time in history. Read white baby boomers, wealthy, trying to retire. They want to go play golf or whatever they want to do. And God bless them. They made their money. They're trying to exit. But the folks coming on the field to replace them, as I've said earlier, are not prepared to grow and lead the biggest economy on the planet. And what are we doing to help them out? We're shutting off the on-ramp to a corporate job from the streets to the C-suites. We're shutting off their ability to get an internship, their ability to join as capitalists. We're shutting off all those valves under a short-term vision that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, anybody who looks at the data. The data is unimpeachable. And here's something else. Diversity is not a goody two-shoes issue. Diversity is absolute hardcore capitalism. The biggest economy in the traditional South, where I came from, Atlanta, 10th largest economy in the whole country, $450 billion a year, and that's a 2-year-old number. That's bigger than every state around it, Stephen. In fact, you take 3 states around it, put them together, put them inside of the city of Atlanta, and you still have room. So in New York, where we are, it's a country. That's a city as far as an economy.
Right.
California, New York, California, West Coast, East Coast, and the South Coast, and Atlanta are some of the three biggest economies, and they're diverse and inclusive. The diverse companies in this country, the ones that are diverse are 40% more profitable than ones that are not. The places that say, I'm gonna argue over silly stuff, like I don't want these people involved, their economies are gonna die. You have less customers, less employees, less vibrancy. There's not a you're welcome sign on the front door of your city. We have to be inclusive as a business strategy. We're the only country in the world with every race of people within our borders. Who do people think built this country? What do they think Goldman Sachs is? Hello?
Right.
What do you think Sam Walton was, right? A poor white farmer, businessman who built what's now called as Walmart. Yeah. And you go, every big company was once a small one. And so this sort of bottom to the top strategy is America. We just have to embrace that once again. And I'll give you one last drop of the mic. Let's assume that somebody watching this rejects everything I've said up until now. They're sitting there and their wife is Caucasian, blue hair, blue eyes and blonde hair. She's wealthy, well-educated. In 1972, she couldn't get a credit card. In 1972, she could not have a bank account.
1972.
Not 1872.
That's right, 1972.
1972.
8 years after civil rights legislation was passed.
And she could not get a loan without her husband co-signing it. And don't take my word for it, look it up for yourself. Now, she got those rights because Nixon, a Republican president, created affirmative action for black people. Nobody really wanted black people to benefit from it. So who benefited from it, by the way, kudos to them, are white women. So they rode that train through the empowerment for women cycle, and today, all women, are 25% of American GDP.
Just 52 years later.
And if we had said no to that, if we had said that's too much progress, if we had said women need to know their place, whatever silly thing that means, if we had said that, we'd be an also-ran country today. We'd be a third-tier economy. We would not be the superpower in the world. Women saved America 50 years ago. And we are at this inflection point again.
Women overall or white women?
No. White women led the way accidentally because of what we just said. They were the ones who were allowed to benefit from affirmative action.
Okay.
And then black women, Latino women, Asian women
were allowed to follow.
Were smart and followed through. And now, of course, black women led small business creation coming out of the pandemic. In fact, the biggest group coming out of the pandemic, starting businesses since 2004, were black businesses. We created 450,000 black businesses at Operation Hope since then, in partnership with Shopify on 1MBB. But the biggest group amongst those were black women. And now it's Latinos that are biggest engine of business creation. So it was all women. I'm gonna give credit again, led by white women. But my point there is, even if you want to criticize this, it's hard to do it because it's all of us. And here we are again. The data, and this is my business plan for America. People can go on they just search while they're listening or watching this and type in business plan for America and look at the data. It's unimpeachable. And my most conservative friends, my most hardcore friends, read that and go, unless you're an idiot, you have to agree with it. I've debated Bill Ackman privately at the Milken Conference. I can't say what we discussed because of the rules.
Okay.
I can tell you that he didn't disagree with me when it was over. There was no fight.
Wow.
I had receipts. He didn't.
We're sitting here today just hours after the Republican National Convention just took place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. When you speak about all the things that you just articulated, and you hear both parties speaking about what their agenda is, what their objective is, having the concerns that you have about America, not even asking you to speak about political affiliations or anything like that. I'm just talking finances here. I'm just talking economics. The country that we can have starting January of 2025. Can you speak to what your level of concern is as it pertains to that at this moment in time?
Oh, this is 1 in 100 year importance. We're sitting in a moment in history right now. This is the third Reconstruction. And whenever you've had a Reconstruction, there's been pushback, by the way. First Reconstruction, freedom, Abraham Lincoln. January, 40 acres. Secretary of War Stanton and General Sherman, Savannah, Georgia. 20 black ministers. What do you want after slavery? No welfare, no apology. That'd be nice. We want land. We want to do for ourselves. That's 1865. Next month, they worked that land so hard, it wasn't good land. It was on the coast. Very hard to farm on sand. Wake up in the morning and your crops in Jamaica. But we worked it so hard. They said, my God, they're so industrious, give them a mule. Next month comes the bank, the Freedmen's Bank, chartered to teach free slaves about money, financial literacy. But Frederick Douglass ran the bank, but Lincoln was assassinated in April. 4 months. And then a reversal came because some people after Lincoln said, too much, too soon, black people are the majority. That's gonna threaten my way of life. And I believe we went backwards. And so now you fast forward 100 years, and basically Dr. King and my mentor, Ambassador Young, who was on that balcony.
Andrew Young.
Ambassador, mayor, the guy who
that's
built,
right,
by the
that's
way, Atlanta into the
Yes, he
only
did.
international city in the South,
Yes, he did.
using Dr. King's philosophy, right? Dr. King basically gave his life to take down a whites only sign. And every civil rights bill was an enforcement action of laws on the books 100 years before. Once again, there's pushback. What did I say after that? Here, after Dr. King, Johnson walks away. Here comes Nixon in response to Johnson and Dr. King, conservative. Nixon then creates affirmative action to prove, I guess, he's not racist, right? But also became, and all credit to him, he became a women's rights president, an environmental president. I'm gonna give him a little credit's due. And then came this experience I said with women, which was the sort of allowable inclusion. And but blacks were, it was like too much civil rights movement, too much, too soon. Here we are again. It happened faster. George Floyd's murder, 2020. Yeah, it happened really fast. Now, corporate America deserves incredible credit. Between $50 and $200 billion committed after George Floyd's murder, not from the government, from the private sector. Right. Some thought that was too much, too soon, and with no data, no receipts. Roll back, push back, politics 2024. This year is one huge colonic, like it's one huge flushing of what we stand for as a country. It's gonna be messy. But here's what I know. God still sits on the throne. Darkness defines light, not the other way around. I mean, light defines darkness, not the way around. Mm-hmm. Badness is failed goodness. That hope and love are the self-renewing energy that's always led this world. And this country cannot succeed economically divided. So I'm answering your question. A divider doesn't work.
Some people, not all, but some people think just putting some money aside is enough to save. Why? When you can do more with it? Not letting your money sit and collect dust. That's real saving. If you could deposit your paycheck on Cash App at no cost and watch your money grow, would you? I'm talking about collecting up to 4.5% interest on your cash. Cash App is offering high yield savings. It pays to get paid on Cash App. Deposit your paycheck on Cash App and you can earn a high yield at no cost. Here's the list of no-cost things provided by Cash App. interest on your account, 4.5 interest paycheck deposit. Now that's something to think about. Cash App allows you to deposit your paycheck on Cash App and watch your money grow. Stop sitting on the bench with people who can't play and get into the savings game with Cash App. Deposit your paycheck on Cash App and you're not paying a cent in fees on your savings to watch your money grow and grow and grow. That's money, y'all. That's Cash App. Download Cash App from App Store or Google Play Store today. One would argue both sides are divided at this particular moment because both sides are saying, hey, the other side ain't for you, no matter what. Last election, you had a guy in Donald Trump that got 74+ million votes. He lost the election regardless of what he wants to admit, but you had 81 million plus people vote for President Biden, now President Biden, then at that particular moment in time, candidate Biden. They voted, some would say, lots would say, not for him, but against that incumbent at the time, which was Donald Trump. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, the bottom line is no matter what way you slice it, the one thing that we can be assured of is being divided. I don't see any evidence whatsoever that there's going to be togetherness at any point in terms of both sides of the aisle coming together, knowing what it takes to compromise and doing what they can to make sure that America is a better, more thriving place.
We're having a different conversation.
Okay.
You're talking about human nature.
Okay.
And I respect that. In other words, you can't grow without constructive friction. That's biblical.
Okay.
Rainbows only follow storms. It's a scientific fact. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. There's always been drama and friction. The civil rights leaders didn't get along. The framers of the Constitution didn't get along. One of them shot the Secretary of the Treasury, for God's sake. This has not been, we are the world and we are the future. For the history of this country, it's been rambunctious. But you need somebody at the front, at the top, who says, in spite of all of our differences, we're one family. That's what you need. You need a father figure or a mother figure. You need somebody who says, this is spiritual. This is not about me. This is about we. And in my opinion, in that regard, there's only one person running for office. There is an individual who's absolutely, undeniably made it clear. This is only about him. And he will do whatever it takes, under any circumstances, to protect himself at all costs. I've served Republican and Democratic presidents.
Yeah. George W. Bush and Barack Obama, correct?
And Clinton, and President Clinton.
Okay.
I've been honored by 5 U.S. presidents, Republican and Democrat, including both Bushes, right? I've known 9 U.S. presidents. This is not a new rodeo for me, right? I've never seen this before. The thing that we're looking at right now is bad for business. It's bad for our country. It's toxic. It's a horrible role model for our children. We have adults acting like kids on national TV every day, selling hate and division. And it's just not something that works long term. Even the devil, Lucifer, for all his power, he's a punk. He's a fallen angel. God gives him permission to exist. This stuff will have a moment, but it will crest and it will be gone. The only model that works is the light on the hill. It happens to be morals and money at the same time. So I will take somebody on a respirator to hate and fear. America is 88% of our jobs, Stephen, are private sector jobs.
That's right.
It's not the government. Wall Street clocks Washington, D.C. on economic power any day of the week. So we overestimate the economic drivers. I mean, it's very important. $700 billion a year spending in federal government is a big deal.
Right.
It has to be done smartly. But we need a vibrant private sector. And my ideal politician has a Republican head and a Democratic heart. Now, I don't see that model right now from anybody.
Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, Bill Clinton.
Okay.
As an example.
A Republican head, a Democratic heart?
Yeah, he was a conservative Democrat. He was. This country is center, slightly right.
Yeah.
Center, slightly right.
Because you know the right, all they want to do is give Newt Gingrich all the credit in the world for
he was a
1994.
divider.
It was Clinton.
He tried to redeem himself later, Gingrich, and he got together with, I forget who the Democratic was, and sung Kumbaya. But he was a divider. His contract, that was division.
Contract with America.
By the way, that was subtle based on what we're seeing now with this 2025 plan, all this other stuff. I mean, some of this, look, unless we understand what I said earlier, plus the fact that the city of LA has 10,000 police officers in a city of 6 or 7 million people, so a person with a side gun and one pair of cufflinks saying that 10,000 is going to protect the city, no, that's not protection. That's a security guard. What you need is hope as your protection. If people wake up in the morning, believe if I work hard, play by the rules, do the right thing, keep my nose clean, follow the law, and hustle, and respect my elders, it'll pay off in a reasonable shot of success or failure on my own merit. The latter, I can go from the bottom to the top. Stephen, people say in our community, I hate rich people. No, you don't.
No, they don't.
You hate rich people until you become rich.
Until you become rich.
What you hate, this is what we're really saying,
unfair opportunities.
You hate the game system.
The game system, yes.
You believe the system's rigged. That no matter how hard you work, you're going to never succeed.
Is it the system rigged?
No, I think they've been taught the system. We're going back to financial literacy for all. You're going back to this conversation of why I believe this is the civil rights issue of our generation. And I'm not talking academically. As you well know, you do your homework. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in South Central. My mom and dad, so-called broken home. They were wonderful parents, Juanita Smith, Johnny Will Smith, but they had a high school education. They broke up over money. Domestic abuse was tied to money. We owned a bunch of stuff. We lost it because my dad was financially illiterate, could make it, but couldn't keep it. Made $1, spent $1.50. Wouldn't ask my mother for help. Grow up from, then I had the two people who tried to save my life. One person murdered in front of me. My best friend murdered in front of me, all over money. And a banker came in my classroom who happened to be Caucasian and taught me financial literacy when I was 9 years old. I said to him, "Sir, what do you do for a living? And how'd you get rich legally?" And I was dead serious. And he said, "I'm a banker and I finance entrepreneurs." I said, "Sir, I don't know what an entrepreneur is, but if it's legal and you're financing it, I'm going to be one." And that's who I am today.
For those watching you right now, define.
$4.7 billion of financial activity, by the way. That's my portfolio.
That's
$4.7 billion.
That's right. Operational and along other things. Define financial literacy. For those out there just watching you, financial literacy, those are two words. We understand what literacy means. We understand what financial means. Financial literacy, your definition of it.
Knowing that you make money during the day, you build wealth in your sleep. That if your outflow exceeds your inflow, that your overhead is going to be your downfall. That is what you don't know that you don't know that's killing you, but you think you know. Financial literacy is having control over your self-determination because you understand how this system works. And let me say this in the clearest English I can.
Okay.
We live in a free enterprise democracy. I didn't say democracy first. We live in a free enterprise democracy. From the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to bed at night. And in reality, it's 24 hours because the government didn't buy your sheets.
Right.
You're engaging in a financial transaction. The comb that goes through your hair, it's capitalism. Somebody designed it and they priced it so that you were willing to pay for it in order to get your hair in the way you want it. The radio that somebody's listening to, the phone.
That's right, that you use.
That's not government
issue. The TV
issue.
that you watch.
The TV you watch, that's not government issue. Right? People say, I hate capitalism. You are a capitalist. You're human capital trading your talents for a paycheck on the lowest level of risk. And for a business owner and an entrepreneur like me, and I think you as well, at the highest level of risk, you just got to decide where you want to play. But we don't know that we're even playing the game, so the game is playing us. Neighborhoods we grew up in.
Hollis, Queens, New York.
South Central LA and Compton. Here's what you see. A check casher, next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, next to a pawn shop, and a church down the street trying to make you feel a little bit better once a week. That's your neighborhood therapist, because we don't want to admit we're crazy. And if you black in America don't think you're crazy, you probably crazy. So that system is a 500, low 600 credit score neighborhood. And you live to 61 years old, by the way.
Right.
And they're targeting that community.
But didn't you say that somebody with a credit score of above 700, like their life expectancy is like 81 instead of 61? It's 81. I got that right.
21 years longer. And we've mapped every zip code in America by credit score with data from Experian.
And what's the reason for the 21-year discrepancy? I understand the credit score is what you're alluding to, but that higher credit score breeds what?
Confidence.
And that's why you live an additional 21 years, because of confidence?
Self-esteem. Because we're not human beings having a spiritual experience, we're spiritual beings having a human experience, and energy matters. There's a cup here. Is the cup half full or half empty? Depends who's looking at the cup. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're absolutely right. I walked in here and you had your hands in your pants. You were looking at me straight in my eyes. You were chilled and relaxed because you're an owner, because you're independent, because you've charted your own course, you have your own brand, but most importantly, you know who you are. Somebody in your life told you they loved you.
Yeah.
I don't even need to know your story to know your story.
Greatest mama in the world.
There you go. See, it ain't complicated. So yes, confidence and competence comes from achievement and mastery. And if you understand how this system works and you can get access to credit, cheap money, right, under good terms, which allows you to become a homeowner versus renting, allows you to become a small business owner, and allows you to pursue your dreams, protect your family, you chill.
Even today, in the year 2024, 2025 approaching, you're a proponent of home ownership?
Absolutely. Come on, man. Look, all these people on TV talking about you shouldn't own a home. Poor people shouldn't own. These fools own a home. And I know these people. They're on the network where I'm a contributor on CNBC. And I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. You just told somebody to not do what you've done.
Right.
That's
hypocritical, yeah.
If they own 1, 2, 3, 4 homes, every millionaire has real estate in their portfolio. Let me tell you this, 3 things have not gone down in American history, Stephen. GDP, gross domestic product in this country. Stock market value, and now you're about to stop me because wait, there's the Great Depression, but hold on a minute. And real estate value. Now you should stop me again and say, well, hold on, John, you're selling wolf tickets because you had the 2008 crisis. Okay, hold on. It goes up, there's a recession, which means it recedes, right?
Comes back up.
And that's why you're so smart, corrects above the line. So buy it, hold it, don't sell. Real estate has always, on balance, gone up.
But you know when it comes to us, I'm talking black people now, you know when it comes to us, for the most part, right or wrong, some people say economics, and then they talk about inflation. A lot of black folks, we ain't thinking along those lines. We think about the money in our pocket, how much it costs for us to get gas, how much it costs for us to buy groceries, et cetera, et cetera. That's our definition of an economy. What the payment is. Not what the interest is, what the payment is. So that's how we approach it. And I guess what I'm asking is,
go ahead.
Taking into consideration what you just explained, folks ain't gonna look at it that way. If they're not looking at it that way, you're a homeowner, you're thinking about it, yeah, damn, I got this roof over my head, the refrigerator, electricity's on and stuff like that. But damn, that electric bill was high last month. And yes, the price to fill this refrigerator is high. Oh, by the way, my landscaping, because my property value, I don't want to just not take care of my property. I got to take care of it, but that costs money too. And the money it takes for upkeep ultimately bleeds your pockets, and that's why people might sit there and question whether or not you should own a home. I'm not one of those people, own a home. But I do understand where they're coming from when they complain about that kind of stuff.
So you just opened 2 doors. Let me do the easiest one first.
Okay.
This is, again, the power of financial literacy. You come to Operation Hope, and you got too much month at the end of your money. We're going to help you raise your credit score 54 points to 100 points in 6 months. We're going to get your debt down $3,800. You're making $48,000 in this example. We're going to get your savings up $2,000. And then you say, well, I don't have the down payment. No problem. Bank A, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, et cetera, they're all our partners, US Bank, Truist Bank, so on and so forth. Bank A has a program for you. It's called a down payment assistance program. If you qualify, it's the only time where being black is a good thing in the financial markets. You qualify, and we'll help you qualify. They're going to give you a $10,000 grant to help you become a homeowner. Use it for closing costs, down payment, or a nest egg in case the plumbing goes out or the lawn needs to be done. Use it as you like, as a grant. Now, you make in this example, I'm gonna make this easy, $38,000.
Okay.
You have 3 children. Federal government owes you a check for working. It's not a handout. It's called the Earned income tax credit. Now, Stephen, $38,000, 3 children. Government owes you about $6,500 cash. And if you've never filed, it's retroactive for 3 years. Now, just in this example, it just took me 40 seconds.
Right.
I just created almost $50,000, well, $45,000 of free cash for you in this example, almost as much money as you make in a year. And that's just one example, because there's city programs, there's state programs, there's federal programs. You're going to get a better loan from the financial institutions because they need to prove to the federal regulators that they're good institutions, because the banks are the only federally backed institution of private enterprise in America. So in order to get FDIC insurance, you've got to help the least of these God's children, not a giveaway program.
And they max out at $250,000 insurance, right? FDIC, is that correct?
About that. There are ways to increase your insurance level, but yes, the simple example of $250. But so because of that, you'll put your money in any bank. Well, the trade-off is they have to do a little bit more to help underserved neighborhoods. So you're going to get a better rate, better terms, maybe this grant that I just mentioned, the Community Reinvestment Act is called. That's $500 billion a year, by the way. And whether you're white, rural, or black and brown urban, you qualify for it, so it's for everybody. That's why I think inclusive economics works. But so when I tell people that, they're like, oh, well, okay, well, I didn't know I qualified for that. Now they start leaning in, because nobody washes a rental car. Like, if you're renting, you're literally opening up a window. And by the way, I was a huge landlord. I owned 700 homes. I had a liquidity event. I got
single-family rental homes, correct?
Yeah, I was the largest minority owner of single-family rental homes in America.
At which span? From which year to which year?
From 2015 from 2015 I started it, and I sold it in 2021.
Okay.
So over 5 years, I grew from zero to $160 million of market value. I sold it for $120 million. I'm a shareholder in the new company. That's one of the things I'm involved with. People know me from Opera Show, but that's one of my private sector activities. So I do that to build wealth, one of the strategies. I have other things that make income for me, right? But that's because I understand. Now, none of this is government handouts. None of this is some hook me up, gimme program. Now, I did have good relationship capital, but I also was smart enough to understand how the system works and to work it, not let it work me. Even got a non-recourse credit facility you knew about, $200 million tied to this transaction. So you got to understand how this system works. It gives you, to go back to your life expectancy, confidence, competence, hope, well-being. By the way, 700 credit scores, I know you sounds crazy. You start dieting better. In the hood, you're going to a fast food restaurant. You're eating horrible food that's going to kill you. You're smoking 2 cigarettes, 3 cigarettes a day. You're doing all kind of stuff that's bad for your health. You're stressed out. So now the real issue in Black America is low self-esteem. Different from our African Caribbeans, different from our Africans because of slavery.
That's right.
Low self-esteem.
So when you talk about slavery, the way I look at it, you talk about slavery is people that came, confiscated you, stole you from your own land, and did the most horrific things imaginable in the history of humankind. But there's something inside of you, an intestinal resolve, where you knew you were victimized. And as a result, it forced you to want to fight in the battle. And part of it was believing in yourself. Whereas when you think about today's generation, in terms of the things that have happened to us, a lot of times people have leaned on other things. We've leaned on racism and other things like that. But the flip side to it is that you're talking about self-inflicted wounds in terms of your behavior, depression that has kicked in, how you're not taking care of your health and things of that nature. Am I characterizing it accurately?
Well, first of all, racism is real. It's not some crazy thing. So let me acknowledge that. But yes, we have PTSD and post-traumatic stress disorder. And if something happens long enough, it becomes a routine, becomes part of your flow. We drive through these neighborhoods that I just mentioned, and we don't even notice the check cashers, the payday loan lenders, the rent-to-own stores, the title lenders, the liquor stores, the preying on us. We don't even notice it because it's become normalized. And Andrew Young has this quote: to live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. So what did Malcolm X say? We've been bamboozled, we've been tricked, we've been hoodwinked, we've been fooled. So now it's what we don't know that we don't know. But now we can't succeed, we've been led astray, and now we're angry because we know something's wrong, we don't know what it is, and so now we resent those who have success and we don't. And what I'm trying to do is unlock the door so you can actually walk through with dignity.
So that's the inspiration.
Change the game.
So that's the inspiration. When you talk about Operation Hope, that's the inspiration, obviously, one of them. When did you start it, Operation Hope?
After the Rodney King riots in 1992. And I want to prove the color's not white or black or red or blue, but green. And everybody can have some of that. And when you do that, you get more control of your life. You feel better about yourself. Your self-esteem goes up. Your confidence goes up. You can take care of your family. I think one of the reasons that black men are not showing up in our households is because they don't believe they can take care of their family. And by the way, the structure, going to government now, the government structure has not been such that rewards black men coming back home. You're actually penalized.
Well, my attitude was, correct me if I'm wrong, because your brilliance obviously is undeniable. I've always been of the mindset, looking at my mom, as great as she was, God rest her soul, being raised by 5 women, 4 older sisters and her, one of the things we talked about in the home was how you saw, and you brought this up, Nixon, 1972, and obviously what advantages women ultimately were able to garner because of laws that were implemented and instituted as a result. Some people would sit up there and say men, particularly the black men, were marginalized. And if you're marginalized and minimized, and you come home and your woman is like, hey, I'm doing what you're supposed to be doing, that leads to the fragmentation and ultimately the disintegration of the black family. Do you believe that at all?
I don't think you told no lies. I mean, it made sense to me. I think clearly, as we talked about, we don't have time in this podcast to go through 400 years of history, but clearly this was set up for black men to fail. And what I'm trying to do is to say, now that we have a chance to have a software upgrade in America, to flip a negative into a positive, to see young black men, even if you're a drug dealer, one thing you're not is dumb. You understand import, export, finance, marketing, wholesale, retail, customer service, security, territory, logistics, etc. This is a brilliant person in the wrong soil. No different than my poor white brothers and sisters who were running moonshine in the Appalachian Mountains. They realized you can't keep running from the police, but we're good drivers. That became NASCAR.
Right.
That's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Those same families, Stephen, are now have $100 million net worth and dignity and respect. I'm saying that these young people, if you're a gang leader, you're a frustrated union organizer. I mean, this is brilliant that has not been properly tapped. You can turn these people into small business owners. They can't get a job, but they can create a job. Right. We got to start seeing everybody.
But those moonshiners
as potential.
But those moonshiners didn't, quote unquote, have the system rigged against them.
Correct.
You don't know too many black folks that don't believe the system isn't rigged against us.
Yes.
What do you say to that?
I say that today the system is different. Van Jones and I were talking about AI recently.
Props to Van Jones doing a great job on CNN, by the way.
He's a good brother.
He's a good brother.
He really is.
Yes, he is.
So we were talking about AI, artificial intelligence, and I'm co-chairing the AI Ethics Council with Sam Altman. And he said, look, 99% of black people don't know a thing about AI. And 99% of white people don't know a thing about AI. We know it's important. We know it's coming. Everybody's clueless equally. It's the first time ever, Stephen, that we're all starting at the same place. And it's going to change everything in 5 to 10 years. So God has a sense of humor. You cannot succeed in America with a majority of minorities unless we support, minorities coming from the bottom to the top. The color clearly is economics today, and you need all of us contributing to the economy in order to be the leader of the free world. We just talked about artificial intelligence. No matter which way you come at this, we now need each other. And we've reached this point in politics, to go back to your point, where clearly neither one of these candidates are attractive to the majority of Americans.
Absolutely.
I will take one over the other all day and all night because of the ethics and the values, at least he means well. But neither one of them are the ideal, all right? So that's not working anymore. Nothing, because people who can really do this job are afraid if they put their head out, social media or somebody lying on them is gonna smear their name and hurt their family. Like, look, you know what, I'm good. I'm just gonna sit here and chill and count my coupons. We have got to reassert ourselves as a nation with a vision and a business plan that includes all of us, and growth that allows you to go, once again, repairing the ladder from the bottom to the top. I want to give corporations a tax break for hiring internships from the hood and from rural areas, black and white. I want to give them a tax break for apprenticeships. I want us to create a farm club. You got a farm club, you're the icon of sports analysis in the nation. By the way, kudos to you on what you build as a brand.
Thank you.
But right now, a farm club only exists if you're going through trying to be a baseball player, football player, basketball player. I'm the big sports.
It should be in anything.
There you go. So
I tell you, before you got here, I talked about how I want folks to come on this show. I said, I'm trying to find the next me, somebody better than me, a whole bunch of folks on the come up who want to be in sports, who want to engage in commentary, who wants to get in journalism, who wants to do a lot of things that I'm doing. I want to go out there and find somebody, because if you're just sitting here by yourself and milking it all for yourself, what are you really, really accomplishing?
So I want a tax break, especially for people like you, who says, I want to create the Stephen A. Smith Academy for journalism, whatever it is, uplift, right?
Mm-hmm.
In elementary school, middle school, high school. I don't want you to do it just because out of the goodness of your heart. We're the most philanthropic nation in the world because of the tax code. We have a high home ownership rate because of the tax code, not just because people are well-intentioned, right? So I want a farm club system from the bottom to the top that rewards those at the top for helping those at the bottom. I want to see micro venture capital, $50,000 loans, investments in small businesses. Maybe those folks, like I said, the drug dealers, they come up with a business plan and redeem themselves, because we're all angels with dirty faces. A saint is a sinner that got up. Let's help people from the bottom legitimize themselves and redeem themselves, pay their debt to society, and reinsert themselves into the economy.
I want to throw some stuff out here. You founded the financial...
And return home, by the way.
Gotcha. Without question. Yes, please do that, all right? You founded the Financial Literacy for All initiative with Walmart CEO Doug McMillon, which you talked about. Yes, absolutely. You're one of only, you are one of the only black authors with best-selling books on economics and business. I believe 6 or 5.
Books?
That's right.
This is my 6th.
This is your 6th book.
And this one's been on the bestseller for business economics, business finance and economics for 4 months now. Number 1.
You already talked about your relationship with Shopify founder and CEO Toby Lutke, and of course Operation Hope we're talking about right now. And getting to that has worked to level the opportunity playing field for underserved America by connecting communities to the private sector through inclusive capitalism since 1972. Clearly, it's been successful. I would ask you, what are your chances, do you believe, it has to continue to be successful? And how much does the next administration, how much dependency is it going to have on who's in office come January of 2025?
I think that the only thing that's going to survive all this drama and division on a moral basis is social justice through an economic lens. That's why I talked about inclusive capitalism, inclusive economics, yes. Doing well by doing good. I came here on Delta, and Delta CEO is on my board, Ed Bastian. He has a stakeholder capitalism model, and all 100,000 of his employees are my coaching clients. And for everybody who goes through financial literacy coaching and counseling, they get a $1,000 emergency savings account, because 64% of Americans don't have $400 for an unplanned event. All people, not black people.
Wow.
64, basically 70% of this country doesn't have $400 for an unplanned event. So I told that to Delta, and the pandemic hit. They didn't get it immediately, but when they called me one day, their HR officer, they said, John, how fast can you be nationwide? I said, excuse me, what happened? We had $1 billion taken out of our 401k plan overnight from people who are just freaked out by the pandemic. This is 2020. We need we understand what you're saying is true. We need to undergird our employees, give them confidence at the bottom. So we did that. Half of all the employees now have gone through this program, gotten a $1,000 check. The lady I was with on the plane yesterday, who happened to be an immigrant from Iran, young sister, told me that she got this $1,000 with Ambassador Young coming to New York, and she got this $1,000, and then she upped her limit to $5,000. So she got the $1,000 from Delta. She updated her limit to $5,000 to match it. She told me she then updated to $10,000, matched that. She now met a goal of $15,000. Now she's on her road to become a homeowner. She's only been in the country for 5 years. She's been working there for a year and a half, It's transformed her whole life, and Delta then provides profit sharing at the top. So when they do better, the employees do better. Today, Delta is the wealthiest airline in the world, the biggest airline in the world, the most profitable airline in the world. So what I say to my capitalist friends, what I say to Republicans and Democrats, what I say to everybody is you can do well and do good at the same time. You can be a good capitalist. You can prosper and kill it in the stock market, in your stock price, and make sure that your employees are prospering. Make sure your communities are prospering, because they're your greatest assets. We have got a short-term plan, and we need a long-term vision. This thing we're at right now is not sustainable. You know, I'm going to give the former president one piece of credit.
The former president?
The former president.
Which one? Donald Trump?
Him.
Okay.
He got everybody voting.
Yeah.
Voting was anemic 10 years ago. Nobody voted. He's got everybody exercised. And it's not just that. Whether women are exercised about the right to choose, and people are exercised about the environment, and immigration, whatever the topic is. And that's a beautiful thing that everybody's now, you can't have a conversation with anybody. Your taxi driver, whoever, unless they're talking about, so tell me, let's talk about politics for a minute. I get tired of the conversation, but I love the engagement. We have got to be engaged in our lives, because you cannot subcontract your democracy. You've got to be involved in this conversation.
As Barack Obama said, you got to get into the arena. You got to get into the arena. You know, you can't be a spectator. It's not a spectator sport. I get that. Straight talk.
So the work will continue no matter who's the president. I like answering questions.
Yes.
No matter who is president.
The work will continue.
In fact, some people actually need the kind of work we're doing more than other presidents need it. We don't, I mean, this is another conversation maybe for another time, but you can go through history and you see some people need to show that they're actually not evil, maybe moral.
Well, stay right where you are. You worked under Clinton, you worked under George W., you worked under Barack Obama. I mean, what, Trump didn't want you?
Oh, they asked me to show up for a bunch of photo ops, which I was just not available for. Okay. I did, though, work with Secretary of the Treasury, Mnuchin, and Joseph Otting of the Comptroller of the Currency to create to help to create the PPP program for small business. I worked with them on designing that. I did work with Treasury extensively during the pandemic. They did a good job. I just stayed out of the political fray, because I'm not going to be, if you're going to be used, I like fair exchange is no robbery.
Right. But it's got to be a fair exchange.
It has to be fair exchange. And again, I just don't do utter selfishness.
What about Biden?
He's a decent guy.
No, I'm talking about in terms of you working with his administration.
Oh, I'm talking to them all the time. Okay. I'm trying to help them wherever I can. I think they're fair and decent. And by the way, we're the only growing economy in the world today.
You mean America?
America. And Steve, people forget, we were in a pandemic. The whole economy was shut down 2 years ago. Yeah. And we came out of that. And yes, $7-8 trillion went into the economy. There's never been a recovery with a T in front of it in the history.
So these folks talking about America, our economy is ridiculous, it's awful, inflation's a problem. America, we're a laughing stock throughout the world.
They're smoking something.
They're just lying.
No,
they're lying?
No, but to rationalize is to tell rational lies. Look, President Clinton told me one day, it's hard to get somebody to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. So I was on CNBC, and I was talking on one of the shows, I think it was Last Call, and a guy came on, a billionaire, and he was saying, this economy with this president is horrible. I let him finish. My mother gave me good manners. And I said, excuse me, sir, I know your net worth. It was 2 in 2019. It's 4 now, billion.
Right.
Your net worth is doubled. What are you complaining about? Yeah. He dropped the line. He just was unavailable for additional conversation.
He just skipped out on you, right?
I have no idea what people are saying. Interest rates. Do you know the interest rates were when my mother and father were coming up?
I know when my mother.
I
know. It was at around 15%.
It was unbelievable.
When my mother tried to refinance a couple of decades ago, and I put a stop to it, for crying out loud. What is it at around 6, 7, or around 7 now? 6.7,
7. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, the money was zero basically, Stephen, for. Since the 2008 crisis, it was free money. It was free money. Now, the only way we got off of that was they had to find a crisis legitimate enough for the Fed to justify raising interest rates. And by the way, that was the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you had all this stimulus that came in from the government, and inflation would have gone through the roof. It probably would have double-digit inflation, and if the Fed hadn't tapped on the brakes and raised, I thought the Fed did the right thing. Is it painful? Yes, but it's better than the whole thing imploding. Everything was overrated. Stocks were overrated. Real estate was overpriced. Art was overpriced. I mean, my tennis shoes were overpriced. Everything was overpriced, and they had to tap it down. They've done so much in 2 years, and they get no credit for it. And it's the biggest economy and the healthiest. You know where Russians putting their money? Here.
Yes.
You know where Chinese are putting their money?
Here.
Here. Yeah. Like, you know, Iran talking all this mess. They're trying to buy real estate right down the street. We don't realize our own brilliance. Everybody wants to be an American but Americans.
That's Americans. Speak specifically about the black community. If America as a whole don't realize our own brilliance, what would you say about the black community in 2024?
Untapped. Basically, we control sports and entertainment, which are fairly small level parts of the GDP. It's about $50 billion each out of 27 trillion, sorry. So these are rounding errors.
What should we be involved in? Because it's sports and entertainment. What should we be involved in?
We should be engineers. We should all own a home. We should all have an insurance policy, so we're not doing GoFundMe campaigns when somebody dies. And by the way, when you die, you can pass down generational wealth through your insurance plan of $100 to $1 million, so that your family can buy a house and build a business. We should own stock. We should own rental real estate. Everybody should buy one home to live in and 2 homes to rent. Not in some fancy neighborhood, in the hood. Go to your underserved neighborhoods. By the way, the inner city in France is called Paris.
Yes.
An inner city in the UK is called London. I mean, we run away from our own communities, and everybody else, by the way, is running to them. You see a little white kid riding a bicycle in the hood? He lives there because it's centrally located real estate. Anacostia, reclaimed. Harlem, reclaimed. Every inner city in America is a gold mine. So we are untapped, we're underserved, we need to double down on simple things. We need to go into professions that are growing, artificial intelligence, technology. Everybody needs a financial literacy degree and a technology class, right? I'm sorry, financial literacy class and a technology class. We need to, 6% of black people are engineers. You wanna not go broke? Be an engineer. Get your credit score to 700. Nothing of what I'm saying is rocket science. Go into law, go into medical fields, healthcare, whole healthcare space, taking off like nobody's business. Be a home care provider. Show your compassion and your expertise at the same time. But you got to have that technology understanding with some practical skill, because AI, as I said, is going to change everything. So I think that one of the secret weapons. I mean, black people built this country for free under bad capitalism.
That's right.
Now we are the secret weapon for economic growth under good capitalism. I had breakfast this morning with Ray McGuire, who is vice chairman of Citigroup. They issued a report in 2020 that showed that black Americans, racism against blacks, from 2000 to 2020, just 20 years, cost the American economy $16 trillion even.
$16 trillion. And when you say racism against blacks, costing our country $16 trillion, how did it cost us $16 trillion?
Because they could have had access to capital and they were discriminated against at the loan application process. Because they could, if they had gotten that business and hired 2 people, X would have happened. If they had called that home, they would have paid property taxes. And if they were not discriminated against in the employment process, then they would have had a job making $80,000 versus a job making $20,000 with the same credentials as their white counterparts.
And if you got money, you're gonna spend money.
And 70% of the economy is consumer spending. Again, we're getting down to a rational movement of common sense again. So again, it's all in the report. It's all data. It's all neutral data. 16 trillion. And if we just knocked it off, you pick up $1 trillion a year. Just knock it off. Just stop it. So that's just blacks. We're not dealing with Hispanics, women, poor whites. I mean, again, my white brothers and sisters, my poor white brothers and sisters are angry because the Industrial Revolution walked away from them and nobody gave them a business plan for their life.
When you sit here and you explain something like this to me, I am quite sure you have articulated this message to white individuals in position of power who have the ability to facilitate such change? What do they say to you? What kind of resistance do you receive when you throw that level of logic in their face?
Well, every meeting that I have the time to have tends to come out with some level of let's do something. So that's why I've got $4.7 billion invested, $100 million of annual turnover, 400 employees, offices in 42 states. I mean, we're the largest of our kind in the country, so it's not like I'm getting rejection.
Okay.
But again, I'm not growing to your first question of how do you feel about this. I didn't do this for a pat on the back.
Right.
I mean, I'm fine. I did this because God gave me more gifts than I can handle myself, and he didn't do it for me. He did it because he wanted me to share them with others. I think you gain power to give it away. What I'm trying to do is to inspire. The book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, proved that at 5% of role models, every community stabilizes. Not 80%.
Right.
Not 50, not 20. God made this so achievable. 5%. And then you can make smart sexy again. The tail wags the dog. Dr. King only had 20% of the black community support, 20% of the white community support at his height. And we're still talking about him. But when you start dealing with the political realms where people are getting, let's be honest now, people are getting paid.
Yes.
What
spend?
It's a quote. No. Paid in their contracts, lobbying.
Gotcha.
So what did Bill Clinton say? It's hard to get somebody to agree to the truth when the lie is paying their paycheck. So my logic is overwhelmed by somebody else's bank account if you're having a purely political conversation and the winds of change are not at my back, but are in my face.
So why do you have so much hope?
Because rainbows only follow storms. Because God sits on the throne. Because there's never been a period in the history of the world, more than 20 years, when bad people continue to succeed. Caesar controlled the game until they cut his throat. Stalin, out. Hitler, out. Osama bin Laden, out. You can go down the line. These bad people come, this fear-based plan works for a minute, and then it hits the trash bin where it belongs. We are made to love, man. We're made to love. We're made for hope. That's why people fall in love and not in hate. They get married even though they know there's a 50% chance they're gonna get a divorce. I mean, we're in love with love. We are loving human beings. People are watching this and listening to this right now, and I guarantee you they're inspired by what they're hearing. They just want any reason to hope.
Yeah.
I mean, look, let me say something. I don't normally say this, but look, that debate, it's horrible.
Biden and Trump on June 27th.
It's horrible. And if I was the president, I would have just simply said, look, before I went in, I said, look, I'm older. My body doesn't work the way it used to. I don't talk as well as I used to. I never talked really all that well. For 40 years, I've been chipping over my words and splitting. Right. I would just admit to it all. I'd make it a joke so everybody understands I'm in my right mind. But that's a whole nother thing. Right. But that debate was absolutely horrible, which means the next day, the former president should have been at 75, and Biden should have been at 25. But it wasn't. It moved barely 2 percentage points. Because people don't want hate. They don't want division. They're looking for any reason to believe that there's a rational approach.
Right. Well, that's why I've been unapologetic about the fact that Donald Trump is not getting my vote because of those reasons. But I will say this. I am upset. And I have been upset at the Democratic Party because you have a bullpen. Where have they been?
It's the worst marketing. It's the worst marketing.
81 years old, going to 82 years of age. And you have any idea how ridiculous it looked to me? I'm just speaking for myself. To watch people standing up and clapping and chanting 4 more years to a man that's going to be 82 years of age. You've got a vice president. You've got a governor in California.
And by the way, she's very smart.
She's very smart. I'm saying you have people who can step in and would pretty much do a damn good job leading, because if you've already set the groundwork with what you've done during your presidency, what's the problem with saying, look, we appreciate you and all you've done, it's somebody else's time now.
You know, the celebrity is a very intoxicating thing.
Yes, it is.
And I think Biden's a very good man. And I think Vice President Harris doesn't get the credit she deserves. I've been talking to her and her team a lot about this economic tour that she's on, and I support it, and I support her. I just think that if you had gone in that first term and said, look, I'm going to do this for 4 years, I'm going to set the country right, and I'm out, I'm cool, I'm chilling.
That's basically what he indicated in 2020.
But, you know, look, you and I know celebrities. You're a celebrity. Wherever you go, people kissing your ring and, oh my God. You know,
or coming after me. It's par for the course. I got it. I can take it.
I can't go through an airport without people stopping me, and I'm honored by it, right? Imagine us times 10. That's some, you know, whatever superstar that is. Imagine what Beyonce gets. And you keep going up, and now you're the president of one of the 220 countries in the world. Imagine what they get. Now you're the president of the United States of America. When you go, a whole world moves with you. It's a passport office in your plane. I mean, there's a hospital in your plane. I think it's just so hard, and everybody's telling you what you want to hear all the time. I think it's really hard to break out of that, I don't care who you are, and just say, I'm out. I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying, and you feel that you can change the world. Right. You feel that maybe only you can do it. Right. I do think that if he had just embraced what, as I just said a moment ago, and just said to people, yeah, I'm getting older, but my intelligence is crystallized and my wisdom is unmistakable, and look at what we built over 4 years. It's actually a marvel for the world. And by the way, you want vitality? There's my vice president.
That's your take. My take would be, I've been a senator for 36 years. I've been a vice president for 8. I've been the president of the United States for 4 years. That's 48 years.
Yep.
You know, I did my best. I love this country. I hope you all appreciate the job that I've done. Mm-hmm. It's time for me to go on home and relax. And I got a great vice president here that I think is going to do a wonderful job. I'm going to hand the baton off. To me, that's the right thing to do at this stage, as opposed to having us watch a clear slowness in the step, per se, the loss of a fastball, per se, when you're supposed to have others in the bullpen who are capable of doing the job that you've already set the stage to do.
So this would have been a much more elegant conversation. November, October, September, August, July, June of last year.
I was saying it back then.
So now, you know, this is a very messy conversation.
Yeah. Because
this is right around the corner.
Yeah.
And there's no good answer, in my opinion. There's no easy answer, because the infrastructure, this machine, you can't just turn it off and hand it to somebody and expect there's going to be fluidity, particularly if they're trying to do a complete reset with somebody fresh and new. Look, I just think that we've got to be thoughtful here. We've got to figure out what's best for the nation, for our children, our grandchildren. How do you build a country that's going to last 100 years, and that's the light on the hill, the leader of the free world, a place for freedom and democracy and opportunity? You know where Africans are coming more than any other country in the world? Here. You know, people from Latin America and Asia.
Everybody's coming here.
The folks coming over the border, they're not Mexicans. Those are Chinese. I'm serious.
Wow.
I'm serious. You got all people are trying to get into America. I'm serious. They're Chinese.
Wow.
Trying to get in this country because we are the sole single light on the hill. And yes, we've got to manage that. You can't let everybody in under all circumstances and all that kind of stuff. But I'm saying, it's something to be admired, man, what we have here, in spite of the fact that it was slavery and all the rest of that stuff. My second great-grandfather was in the Civil War, George Young. He fought during the Emancipation Proclamation for Lincoln. He was a slave. My grandfather was, R.B. Smith, was a sharecropper. You can go back and look at your history and you know that. So I'm not talking from an unformed place. My parents paid the price. My grandparents paid the price. My great-grandparents were slaves. I'm free because of them. And I am now, this service is the debt I pay for the freedom that I have. And I want everybody watching this and listening to this to figure out what they need to do and what debt they have to pay. We all owe something. You didn't get this for free.
That's right.
You didn't get this for free. If you're living in America, you're doing it because people who came before you, 100, 200, 300, 400 years before you, paid a price and got nothing for it. The least we can do is hire some interns. The least we could do is to have some philanthropy. The least we can do is to be gracious and give people a meeting when they call for it. The least we can do is to open the door from the streets to the C-suites.
That very last question, and thank you so much for your time. John Hope Bryant, I gotta ask you this. You just brought up the Chinese, you just brought up, you said they're coming into this country, other folks are coming into this country. One of the arguments that have been made, the more folks that come into this country, the more obstacles there are for the underserved amongst us. And in this country, a lot of times, more often than not, that's black folks, let's call it what it is. The more challenging it'll be for us to get a step up, a step ahead. To that you say what?
No. I mean, there was a time where we wanted those agricultural jobs that those who come in from places like Mexico are taking. We wanted those handyman jobs, those handywomen jobs, and we took those jobs in the 20th century, early 20th century. But we got educated. We need to, by the way, double down and triple down on education. That's the ultimate poverty eradication tool. We need to now move up the economic. You don't work at McDonald's your whole life. You shouldn't. You can, I guess, but you shouldn't. You do that job for 2-3 years, and you bounce. You go to Walmart for 2-3, you bounce, and you go up the ladder. And what we need to do is not work at a convenience store for 25 years. That job is going away. Again, artificial intelligence again. We've got to be obsessed with aspiration, with growth, with education. We should take our place in a higher echelon of income and wealth creation as a group of people, as other people of color have done. And by the way, we can and we will, I believe. We've done it, we did it in the 20th century. We really are the moral pulse for this country, and I believe arguably for the world. What's black culture? All around the world. Black music? All around the world. The inspiration through sports? All around the world. People of color. And we can expand that to other levels of capitalism and free enterprise and be, again, a light and a sample, an example for people all across the world. Black Africans are coming here and killing it. Black Caribbeans are coming here and killing it. I mean, Colin Powell was Black Caribbean as but one example. You can go on and on and on. African Americans, because of what we talked about, I think suffer a unique depression because of how we were treated. And we need to heal so we can deal and go from surviving to thriving to winning and building. That's the mindset shift that I am trying to trigger, to help us trigger. And by the way, it's working. I got 1.5 million views on my videos in a week.
That's right. What about Straight Talk with John Hope Bryant?
That's a lot of that is just these short videos, and these are young black people, young black men, 18 to 35, looking for a mentor. They're not looking for handouts, man. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, "Oh, let me be a thug. Let me be a problem for society." They don't know any better. And if all you see in your neighborhood as symbols of success are rap stars, athletes, and drug dealers, then why is anybody surprised that a kid grows up wanting to be a rap star, an athlete, or drug dealer? I can't scale my brother T.I. I can't scale my brother Killer Mike. They're unique. I can't scale Oprah, who I just saw last week, or Gayle King. But I can scale an engineering group or a technology group or an AI cybersecurity firm I'm going to invest in as black owned. These things are scalable with jobs and economic opportunity across the economy and real estate and all the other things that are traditional in our economy. And it's not like we tried it and didn't work, Stephen. We've never tried. This is what gives me hope. It's not like we tried all this stuff and it didn't work. We tried free enterprise and capitalism and it didn't work. We've never tried it because we were told money was evil. And I say, no. Money's not evil. The love of money is evil. So
I tell people to pay attention to data, pay attention to the information, pay less attention to emotion.
That part. I said on Charlemagne's show about this diversity,
Breakfast
equity,
Club.
inclusion. I said, black people are too emotional and some of my white friends are too narrow-minded on this topic. We're winning the battle and losing the war. Again, we got to open up the aperture there, be more passionate, be more visionary, be more inclusive, and ask yourself, how did we make it 100 years ago? And are we basically, we need to reset that business plan, which again, bottom to the top, those who come in as immigrants, give them a shot, work hard, play by the rules, do the right thing, and build something great. And I think that, to your question, that those coming in legally, under the rules, at the bottom, will find their place, their foothold in the economy, and those who used to be at the bottom a generation later, will get educated and find new opportunities in new and stable economies. And so I'm not insecure about people coming in. I think we're about expanding the table, Stephanie Rule quote, and add a chair. Expand the table and add a chair.
The one and only John Hope Bryant, Financial Literacy for All, your 6th book. Congratulations on that. It's such an honor to talk to you, my man. I couldn't wait to talk to you. Couldn't wait to meet you.
Much love and respect, and this has been an important conversation. You've got the ear of a generation of people who can literally change the world, and we've got to believe. We've got to believe there's a shot and a place for us. And I think my personal story, being homeless and all this stuff, is testimony.
Yeah.
Of what each of us can do if we apply ourselves. And my job is it's the James Brown version of affirmative action. Right. Open the door, I'll get it myself.
I remember.
That's what you've done, that's what I've done, that's what everybody else has done.
And you were homeless from like age 18 to like age 20, 22, right?
No, I was only homeless for 6 months, but I struggled. I mean, once you're homeless, you lose your credit and all that stuff. I mean, my credit was tore up from the flow up. I was so poor I couldn't afford an OR. I was just poor.
The one and only John Hope Bryant. Appreciate you, my man. Welcome back anytime.
Thank you, bro.
Anytime. Absolutely. Stephen A. Smith Show right here with the one and only John Hope Bryant. Wonderful, wonderful conversation. Y'all heard it. Y'all saw it. Make sure to give me your thoughts because I'll be very, very interested in hearing what you had to say. You should have been listening and you should have been learning. I'm going to take that class. I'm going to take that financial literacy class. Yes, I need it too.
I have a coach. I have a financial literacy coach.
How about that?
Yeah.
I need it. I need it bad. I'm coming for it. That's it for this edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show. Really appreciate y'all watching and listening right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube and iHeartRadio. I'll talk to you about this later on. Until then, take care, everybody.